So I'm Samon Burnham, and this is the quarterly update for ARS's Parry Search tool. And this quarter is really spent on taking the Parry Search tool that we use in Studio and trying to understand the data that's stored in the system. And once we have that data, let's see if we can make some assumptions off the data and try to put in some views that help people make actionable interventions toward the community's skills. So if you're not familiar with the Parry Search tool, it's a tool that we use in Studio. And you basically go in, type in the task that you need help with, and once you submit that, you can see the rest of the tasks the community also needs help with. And going through these, you can just rate each one on how comfortable you feel helping with that task. You go all the way through. Once everyone finishes, someone clicks Make Pairs up here, and if you scroll down, you can see the system takes in all of the ratings, finds optimal matchings, and then matches those people together. So given that we have this system, there are some things you can kind of see about it, and there are some assumptions you can start to make with the system just from this space. So we can see, let's say, for example, this first task is an iOS task. Let's say it's help me debug my iOS app. And this task right here is also an iOS app. Maybe help me do notifications in an iOS app. If someone rates both of these tasks very lowly, you can kind of see that maybe they aren't too skilled in the area of iOS development. So given that we have a whole system and a whole history of tasks, can we, one, see someone's skill history over time? So let's see, can we see if they've improved over time towards a certain skill? And then two, can we find the people who are optimal in certain areas and kind of push matchings towards people who are in the optimal area to help you on your overcome the blocker. So that was the initial research goal when we first started off. But as we kept moving forward, we kind of saw things shift a bit, given that the data isn't exactly the way we wanted to, but it still tells the story that we want to, and we can still make some basic assumptions off of it. So in the beginning, it was very much just diving into the data, trying to see if we can just understand, I guess, where the spread of ratings are and what the ratings actually can tell us, or what they're able to tell us. So if you go right here, we can see, spend a lot of time just doing some data analysis with Python and all the data that I've stored. And we can go through and kind of get a general feel on where ratings stand. So this is just a basic histogram of where ratings are. Average is obviously a 3, and it kind of has a slight curve right here. We go through and kind of just see a general overview of where ratings are, and just trying to see if we can use ratings as a way to make some sort of assumption about the community or individual skills. So if we go through, we kind of spend some time just seeing, okay, let's just take, for example, the idea of skill supply and demand. So this graph right here just shows the number of people who are rated a certain category, a 1, versus the number of people who rated that category a 5. And I believe the blue is 5 and the orange is 1. So the way we got these categories is just taking each task and building basically a dictionary of DTR categories and DTR tasks, and mapping the task keywords to a category. So for example, if a task said help me debug my iOS app, the term iOS would appear, and the term iOS would match to the category, I believe it's right here, web and mobile dev. So you know that category has something to do with web and mobile dev. So this is a good way of just getting a general, very rough, but a very, very general breakdown of the task and where each task kind of fits within ARS and within our community using Parry Search. So this is one example of a display that we can kind of show, and so we're trying to see if in general we can just create views that help people make informed decisions about the community, so they can better address any skill deficiencies or any holes that they might see in people's understanding of certain areas. So if we go through, we can also just see another interesting part of the data is that let's see if we can understand the certain type of tasks that get the most amount of 1s, which 1 means that someone cannot help at all in that certain task. So going through this, we can see where people don't really feel comfortable helping. And it's interesting because this kind of can be taken further to another step, and you can kind of take this kind of breakdown for each week and have a mentor or professor or anybody who's in a leadership position over the community really understand each week where people aren't really feeling comfortable helping with certain tasks. And if you know that information, you can kind of set up some kind of intervention or some kind of external learning that can go about to kind of improve that score, because people really don't feel comfortable helping with that in the system in real time. And we can also see on the flip side where people really feel comfortable helping with and where our community is strong. So a lot of the tasks can come, and it's interesting because a lot of the tasks can help you understand those kind of questions to better address or better to understand where your community stands in regards to skills. So if we go through, we spend a little more time kind of understanding, okay, now that we have the group's aggregate skill rating, can we understand where individuals lie within skills? So this is a lot of time just going to data and building up data structures and building up models that helped us really understand. Give me 1 second. Building up models that would help us understand where individuals stand with their skill rating. So just taking someone's entire skill rating history over time and then building up data structures that help us understand that. So we can see here that for a given user ID in the system, we can just kind of find where they lie within certain categories and skills. And because we have a system of Parry Search data, we also wanted to, I guess, test the validity of that, because there are some drawbacks that come with using Parry Search system data. For example, people might rate things not too accurately. They might not want to help certain people, so they rate them lowly on purpose. They might think the scale is flipped, so they rate things that they definitely cannot help with as a 5 instead of a 1. So there are some gaps in the accuracy of the system. It's not 100% accurate, but we wanted to, I guess, test. We wanted to test and see how accurate the data was. So we sent out a poll, which is asking people in class tested with ECR students, just saying, oh, who are you? What's the name of your project? From scale to 1 to 5, how important are these categories to your project? And then also, on a scale from 1 to 5, how comfortable do you feel helping with these categories? So given that we have a bunch of 1 to 5 ratings from each individual for all these categories, we can map that back to the original Parry Search dataset and see how the skills they reported relate to the skills that they actually have in the system. So given that we have that, we built a small little heat map of just showing right here, these are all the user IDs of users in the system, and these are all the categories we have. And each square right here is equal to the skill reported in the Parry Search tool minus the skill that they reported on the survey. So each square right here is showing the difference between where the system says their skills are and where they think their skills are. And because most people have reds across their rows, it shows that the skills that they reported are often higher than the skills they actually have in the system. So this definitely means that we have to do a bit more analysis of the correlation between, I guess, self-reported skills and the system skills, and see whether these ratings are actually accurate and whether they're good enough for us to make any assumptions off of. So given that we had those two, we spent a bit more time just, okay, now that we have information on the group and we have information on the individual, can we just kind of use the data that we have to help people in the moment make decisions on who they should help with or who they should reach out to for certain tasks. So that was spent over here. Building a certain tool that basically just let people type in tasks that they need help with. So for example, you see debug our Meteor app. They would type in the tasks that they need help with, and once the system recognizes the task, breaks it down into categories, it brings back the people who are best in those categories, so to say, and that would help people, it would really help people kind of understand who in the community can help them with a certain task that they have in the moment. So for example, let's say this can be implemented in the sprint planning tool. So as you're writing down the tasks for your stories, this would automatically just break down your tasks into categories and bring you the people who can definitely help you with that category right in your sprint plan. So if you hit a blocker while you're working, you know exactly who to reach out to, and kind of minimizes that gap between people needing to ask for help and people actually going and asking for the help and not just grinding through themselves and trying to fix it themselves. So given that we had all three of these IS tools, we have the aggregate view, we have the individual view, and we have the skill breakdown or the search page. We can use these and map them to the original Parry Search interface, so we can really understand, or I guess we can start to test whether this is a valid way of going about helping people intervene when it comes to skill growth in the community. So we have the original Parry Search tool here, and the last few sprints were spent just planning interfaces, building design and interface arguments for what we're building to make sure that the things we're building are actually targeting the questions that we want to ask about the system. And it was also spent kind of building prototypes of these interfaces so we can test and see whether they're accurate. So if we go right here, we have the basic search page, so we can see, okay, so let's say I need help with debugging my Meteor app. We click Find Helpers, and it takes a set of hard-coded data that was grabbed at the beginning of the quarter for Parry Search, and it takes that data, builds the data structures, and then goes through and parses and finds people who are good at the certain categories. So for example, these people are people in the community who have rated this task highly. Oh, that's for debug, sorry. Debug my Meteor app. Oh. Cool, let's find helpers for that category. So given that this is not just debug and now it's debug my Meteor app, you can see that it's break down to a broader set of categories. So we have debugging, and we have also web and mobile dev and dev tools. So it gives you it takes all of the data that's stored, and it gives you, I guess, an actionable view of who can help you and their average rating on that skill. So these are very low fidelity mockups. They were very much, or low fidelity prototypes are very much, okay, one, can we even just do this with the system? And it is pretty helpful, and I guess with a bit more, a bit better design and a bit more thought, you can definitely show users a bit more data that's more helpful to them. So for example, there is kind of a spread within skill difficulty. Like some people might rate, sometimes there are easy tasks in certain categories and sometimes harder tasks in certain categories. So I guess in addition with this system right here, you can add in the top rated task in this category this person right here helps with, so you can kind of get an understanding of what in debugging they're good with, or what in web and mobile dev this person is good with. But this is definitely a useful thing that can be used in sprint planning tools during SIG meetings on the spot if a certain person needs help, for example. So we also have a stats page that basically lists a bunch of timestamps correlating to Parry Search sessions. And given that we have this, can we go through and just understand the skills snapshot of the community at a certain point of time? So for example, right here, we have each task that was asked during this timestamp right here, and the average rating that given to that task across the community. So given that we have this, a mentor or a professor or somebody who's in a leadership position over the community can kind of get a snapshot of where skills are in the moment. So you can imagine that this right here would be the task, we have the rating, maybe the categories related to that, and also the spread over the community. So I can quickly get a understanding of, okay, this week during our Parry Search session, people didn't feel comfortable helping with this, this, and this, so maybe the group needs better guidance or maybe another review over these categories. So this gives the people in charge a way of really understanding where the skills are in the moment in the community. And you can imagine this can be, I guess, we have single timestamps here, but if you imagine in the future we have maybe just, I guess, selecting multiple of these and seeing over time where do categories go. Do category ratings increase? Do they decrease? Do people get better over time? Do people get worse over time? This is basically a way for people to understand at a general view, at a higher level view, where skills are for the community. So this was the first real research quarter done on Parry Search that asked whether you can understand skills within the community given the Parry Search data. And given that we do have that Parry Search data, what kind of design arguments and what kind of, I guess, arguments about the community and the system can we start to build in order to improve the experience of people working and participating within ARS? So given that we had this progress that we made this quarter, next steps would be to flesh out the interfaces that were built, kind of build a more robust set of views for data. So for example, building a better view or a more fleshed out view of the aggregate view of the entire community, as well as building a more fleshed out individual view. So letting users go and see the skill breakdown for individuals in the community and across everyone, where there are holes in the community or where there are like hotspots where you can, I guess, the most effective places for you to have an intervention when it comes to skills, and that would help mentors improve critical areas that the community needs help with, as well as help students really develop their skills towards the areas that they want to be improving and growing towards, and I guess let them have just a better experience or improve their experience within this community of learners and help them learn the things they really want to understand.